All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Exit Liquidity. This is last week I totally said I would remember what episode we're on, but 92. 92. It's totally 92. Episode 92. This week we have on Nalik and Profit from MetaDAO, a very interesting team, very interesting product that looking forward to learning a lot more about. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
Thanks
having
for
us.
having us.
Yeah, absolutely. To start out, would be good to get a little bit of background on the both of you. Just figure out who we've got on today, kind of what brought you guys into crypto, who you were before you got here, and sort of like your story of what you're doing. Nalik, it would be great to start off with you.
Cool, yeah. So been in crypto for a decade now. Started in 2014 at Bitcoin in the Beltway. Did management consulting for a while with businesses, moved up to British Columbia, did pay-per-click ad arbitrage, which was really interesting. My first foray into markets, whether I realized it or not. Started developing trading strategies up there, moved back to the States, built a market making business, traded 2.2 billion in volume, and found Solana, started to run RPCs to run liquidator bots on chain, found that the validator business seemed fairly lucrative, so started running a validator and morphed into more trading strategies on chain and discovered Profit in October of 2023. So about this time last year. So got started with MetaDAO aggressively during that period.
And then,
Awesome.
yeah, I'm Profit, pseudonymous developer, used to write caching systems in Web 2, then wrote smart contracts in Ethereum DeFi, and now work on FUTARDS.
Nice.
Real quick, what is a caching system, out of curiosity? I mean, like from a high level.
Sure. I mean, so big companies need to get data from other like smaller companies, and if you like ping these other companies like their APIs, it would inundate them and potentially like sever the system. So what you need to do is like create a caching system such that like, yeah, you store that data locally and then you don't have to actually go to them every time. And so you have to, yeah, essentially like manage state and make sure that what you're seeing is the most up to date, and then like go to them in like a failover situation.
Interesting. And I mean, like pseudonymous, I'm not even going to attempt that word again, but that word and type of person always are super interesting, because I feel like the direct connotation is that they've like hacked some stuff before, or like do some like crazy stuff. So I want to dive into that a little bit, because I think it is pretty interesting. Was that an immediate decision when you entered the space? Was there any like pseudonymous people that you like kind of saw and saw how they, did this type of thing, and you wanted to kind of like take inspiration from that?
Yeah, when I worked in Ethereum, those were the pre-profit days, and so yeah, I was not profit, but I did work with a great deal of anons, and that showed me that it was possible. And yeah, I thought like it made a lot of sense.
Wait, this is actually crazy lore. So do you think that, so when you were in Ethereum, and I don't want to like try and expose the man behind the mask, but like when you were in
Sure,
Ethereum,
you can ask any question you want. I just may not answer it.
Yeah. When you were in Ethereum land, were you not working in an anonymous way? Were you just like fully doxxed? Were you
Right.
online at all?
Yeah. So so all that is deleted. Like you wouldn't be able to find any of that online.
Okay. So that's a yeah. That's a yes.
And then you also have Satoshi, right? Satoshi for Bitcoin. So there's some impetus there.
I just think that it's like I think that it's great that like I feel like the war between Ethereum and Solana, and like in that case, like having someone join the Solana space and go anonymous, like theoretically you could be Vitalik, theoretically you could be you could be any of these like prominent prominent Ethereum people, and I think that'd be the most like hilarious outcome. But yeah, no, that's really cool. When it comes to profit and this like anonymous element, where's the mask, where's like everything come from? Am I not understanding a cultural reference, or is this all like completely custom?
Well, like when originally I was picking the name, I was like, okay, Futurds is a fundamentally new governance system, and like a really big thing, right? Like it fundamentally reshapes the way you think about a lot of stuff. Like people have told me this before. They're like, oh shit, like once I realized that Futurds works, like it kind of ruined companies for me, like owning stocks, because they're like, oh wait, all these managers are just like pillaging the companies, and it ruined voting for me. So it like changes people's thinking in a lot of ways. So I thought profit would be like a funny thing, and then you got to add the 3 because leet speak, like nod to that. And then the mask was just I asked Stable Diffusion to generate like probably 500 different just robotic profits, and this was the one that I generated one that looked like this, and then I used that as a seed and generated a bunch more, and then I liked this one. So
yeah, it's a pretty awesome choice. And so like you had someone custom make that, because I feel like a lot of people probably were aware of or became aware of MetaDAO through your like Breakpoint presentation, which we'll jump to in a sec. But you had this like created and like planned out for Breakpoint, I'm assuming.
I didn't do anything, but yeah, Nalik, he got that all organized.
Yeah, it was, if he wants to talk in public, be recorded, this was important, and anything to continue to support that was, the thing to do. So I actually had been trying to do it since May, because he kept sticking me on podcasts and places. I was like, you need to go, you need to be able to talk. So finally found somebody, and we worked back and forth with the sketch designs, and we had just this PFP to go off of. So it was really cool to work with somebody that was creative and started to get that stuff together. And when it came together, I mean, it was just amazing. So
yeah, and when you two met, was Prophet anonymous, or who's behind the mask?
So he's like I physically see him every day. I do that, but besides that, I reserve any personal information or anything like that. So when I first met him, it was a guy sitting across from me talking about short-term commodities futures and the way that we could exchange value through them rather than currency. So that's how I've known and met him.
Yeah, and
there are for like Paradigm, like one of the people or a few people on the Paradigm team they had to run like a background check on me, so it's not like completely anon.
Yeah, makes sense. Was there ever did you ever want to go anon? Was there a decision there for you to stay like public, Nalik?
I think early on, when I like reintegrated with crypto for Discord and everything like that, I was pseudo anonymous. I mean, my screen name and everything is just my name backwards. So I'm not trying to hide that hard. I think there's been like 3 people in crypto that figured it out. Like, hey, is this just a weird spelling of Colin? And I was like, yeah. So I think as I started to get more involved with the community, as I started to build the validator out, I think that there's like a level of social trust that needs to be built. And I'm find to engage with this stuff. This has been my career. So I want to be able to represent that and make sure that like these things get done, and you can go out into the world and engage with other people and say like, hey, we're here and this thing's here to stay, and we want to make it so.
Yeah, that's super cool. I think what I'm gonna do after this is just like try and see multiple rumors about who Prophet is. And just like maybe it's like totally, maybe it's Vitalik. I think that'd be good MetaDAO lore.
People have
Okay.
conjectured both of those before.
Yeah, I mean, were you guys in the same room during that presentation at Breakpoint? I don't know.
We had people at MetaDAO convinced I hire actors to follow me around. So
yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I think that's like some of the stuff crypto needs, and you don't really see some of like some of those elements in the Solana ecosystem. So I think that's like dope. It's one of my favorite things about MetaDAO. I mean, it's like a very far out mission that is like never been tried before. Throwing on this like anonymous element, I think it's super cool. Cool. When it comes to MetaDAO, I think my top of mind question that I want to get your guys'
hang on
take.
1 second before we get into
Yeah.
that. You're skipping our most important question, our
Oh yeah,
our ritual,
Shit.
our rite of passage. The show is called Exit Liquidity, obviously. I don't want to take away too much time from MetaDAO itself, but this is part of the vision, I think. We cannot have a podcast without first learning what your most memorable moment of being Exit Liquidity was. Everybody goes through it. It's the cost of doing business in crypto. And I think reflecting back on it a lot of the time can provide some interesting insight to what you're doing these days and what you're building then. For me and Cito, the biggest thing has always been like the whole Terra Luna thing. That's like a lot of it. If you go back and watch all 92 episodes, it's probably mentioned in about half of them. Half of them plus one now. So, Prophet, starting off with you, would love to hear your most memorable moment of when you were Exit Liquidity.
Yeah, so I don't move around my assets that much. I take more like concentrated positions. So I've actually never been rugged. Probably the most memorable situation where I didn't put like a big stack, but yeah, I think I bought like a few $1,000s worth of token. You guys remember Tokamak from like DeFi 2.0? Yeah, so I bought it at like a $4 billion FDV, like a retard. And now I think it's trading at like a $10 million market cap or something, like something egregiously low. It's down like 99.9%. So my few $1,000 buy is probably worth like 10 cents or like something like that. So yeah, probably that. Olympus DAO. I thought Olympus DAO was really cool. I still think it is cool. I should not have put money into it though at the time that I did.
That's a classic for sure.
Yeah, DeFi 2.0. Damn, those words still haunt
The
me.
days. Nalik, what about you, man?
So I've been around since Mt. Gox. So was part of Mt. Gox. I was part of Bitfinex when those funds got stolen. I had a huge Ethereum position, and they liquidated everybody's position, gave you IOUs even though Bitcoin was stolen. And then I was around with BitMEX when their indexings or their oracles blew up everybody's positions. And then for Terra Luna and Mango, and so there's a lot. The FTX was certainly memorable, leaving Breakpoint at that time and then getting on an airplane to go to Paris, and like I was doing an arbitrage between on-chain BTC and FTX. But I think the most memorable one for me was Terra Luna, because it was just so big as far as like like sitting there and being like, oh, but they just signed a deal with the Washington Nationals. I know people that are still getting offer contracts. They're saying, hey, it's still going. Like the shambles that was. It was crazy.
And for context, Malik, he used to he market made stable coins. So like UST was a big pair that he did.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's rough.
So that stuff was fun days. I think during that period I had a 72-hour day.
My God, dude, you've been hit by like all of the big ones. Mt. Gox, FTX, Bitfinex. Jesus, I'm so sorry.
I probably would have left the entire space.
Yeah, I don't know what you're still doing here.
Yeah, I mean, like that's just like stubbornness, I guess. I love the technology that much, right? Like at the end of the day, and then I think early on when Bitcoin had its meteoric rise, it taught me just like I don't count losses in that way or potential gains, right? Like I made my money when I made my money. The returns were the returns, but looking back, the Bitcoins that I had, like everything like that, I'm like, I just don't pay attention to it. I'm like, we're building the future here. This technology is what's important.
Yeah, I think that's a huge testament to your beliefs and how much you believe in MetaDAO. That's really awesome to hear. You guys both have some really good lore. That's awesome. Yeah, so jumping into MetaDAO, I think the large question. Well, first, I think we should start with just like high level framing of Futardsky. Am I pronouncing it right? And what is it?
Yep. Sure. Yeah. So Futardsky is essentially like the core idea is, well, I'll explain it to a crypto degen because that's your guys' audience, right? Yeah. So I guess crypto degens are familiar with polymarket, right? Like people trade on what they think will happen. And some people, and I tend to agree with this, think polymarket is like a really good way of aggregating beliefs and like predicting the future, like prediction markets in general. And this is empirically validated, right? Like 74% of the time, presidential prediction markets have beaten professional pollsters at predicting who's going to win the election. And there's lots of other evidence of prediction markets being better than experts and markets more generally. And so the idea of Futardsky is, what if you could use markets to make decisions? And yeah, that's pretty much how it works. So like an example would be Uniswap is deciding whether or not to turn on the fee switch. Right now, it's this process where people vote with their Uni tokens, and if enough Uni votes yes, you turn it on. If not, you don't. In a Futardsky, instead, people trade on they bet on what they believe the price of Uni would be if you were to turn on the fee switch, and what it would be if you were to not turn on the fee switch. So if traders bet that Uni would be worth $1 if you turn on the fee switch and 60 cents if you don't, then you can automatically use that price information to turn on the fee switch because the market is saying number would go up. And so you should do what would make number go up.
Great. And when you extend this concept of Futardsky out, even beyond the crypto degen, the core belief from what I've seen is that this is a solution for like all types of governance, the highest form of governance. Do you two believe that MetaDAO and the things you're building there will have some inevitable reach into like traditional forms of governance? Is that like your North Star?
For sure. I mean, that's why I think we're building it. DAOs suck today, and that's definitely like a problem that we want to fix. But a far more interesting long-term problem is just like, society. I mean, lots of people work for companies. Companies are pretty misaligned, right? Like you have all these situations where managers who are appointed to run the company do all these things that are good for them, but bad for the company as a whole. Like principal agent problems. And then governments like are really, really bad, right? Like it completely ineffective. I think like anyone who's gone to like a DMV or just like interacted with the government, other than maybe like Singapore, knows that governments can be like very inefficient and ineffective. So yeah, like solving that is definitely the North Star.
And when it comes to what the current state of governance looks like, I think you mentioned that's kind of the direct problem that you guys are currently trying to solve for. If you boil that down even further, we could say like governance within the Solana ecosystem. Can you give us like a rundown, Nalik, on what governance in the Solana, because it still feels like a bit nascent, right? Like it's not as fleshed out as some of the governance on EVM protocol on EVM chains. Can you walk the audience through like big governance moments within the Solana ecosystem?
Yeah, I can. Currently the equivalent of Snapshot for Solana is Realms on Solana, and you had some interesting things. You still have some interesting things going on right now. One of the most infamous events was like Parrot Finance, where they had effectively redeemed the treasury against the project. The project, wasn't going to move forward. The team had minted $47 million of the token and effectively redeemed against their ownership. So that's one example of broken governance in there. There's a few more that Prophet can remind me of with that, but right now you have the same issues that plague most DAOs, which are you have quorum thresholds that you need to meet so that people don't rug off with treasury or do funky stuff. And in that case, you need, like say 1% of total token supply. That could be massive. And so you need to assign tokens to delegates. Delegates need to participate. You need a 30-day period to drive up interest in the proposal to get people that do want to vote to come out and vote. So I'd say Solana is nascent for sure in that the teams that are out there using it, are any of the big players that have governance token obviously are going to leverage it. I think one of the interesting things for Solana is where like control is ceded to a DAO. And you have highly functioning DAOs like MakerDAO or other examples don't seem to exist on Solana as far as I know right now. And I can be corrected by Prophet if he knows anything that I don't. But yeah, so that's the situation. You have realms, you have DAOs, you have votes, you have similar behaviors that you have on Ethereum, and people are picking it up for sure, but I think Jupiter's LFG is probably one of the biggest examples of a highly active user base that's, that's their launch pad to issue tokens or launch tokens. So that's probably one of the most engaged DAO participatory events or communities on Solana ecosystem right now, if you guys want to take a look at that stuff.
Yeah, Jupiter is definitely the only one I know of that. I think I definitely have more limited visibility on Solana stuff than you guys do, but from what I see, like they're the most complete. Those problems you alluded to, like high thresholds, low turnout. How exactly do you guys see Futards, or even now, how is it already kind of working to address these, or how do these problems like not exist on there?
Sure. I guess, yeah, when the price is wrong in the future, so if a vote is going in the wrong direction, then that just kind of like sucks. And there's not a natural, you can kind of like rally the voters to vote in a certain way. But it's this like social coordination effort. Whereas with markets, like if a price is wrong, like if you can buy Bitcoin today for $30,000 while the spot price is 70,000, that's like a big opportunity for you, right? Because you can arbitrage that. Or if you can sell Bitcoin for 140K, then you can arbitrage that as well. You can buy in the spot and sell in that other market that gives you the higher price. And yeah, because these are markets, they're like they're decision markets. if the vote or like if the trade, the proposal is going in a direction that's bad, then that opens up an arbitrage opportunity for people to come in and profit by correcting that. Right? Like, say you have a proposal to turn on the fee switch, and if you were to turn on the fee switch, Uni would go to $1, and right now it's trading in that market, in the like turn on fee switch market, for 60 cents. Then you can buy a bunch in that market, and then if it like passes, if the fee switch gets turned on, sell it at a higher price. So yeah.
So then does that, how would like manipulation play a role there? If like a motivated actor had enough of a share of governance, what would their path to like swinging a vote look like? And like number one, is it feasible? Number two, how are they like hindered in that process as opposed to like the traditional shitty DAO models that we have?
Sure. Yeah. So markets aren't perfectly non-manipulable, but they do have incentives to correct it, which is like a big case for why Polymarket is like actually a pretty good aggregator of information, right? With Polymarket, like people talk about, oh, you can just manipulate this price. Like someone can just buy or sell in order to get it to go a certain way. But if they do that, that opens up an arbitrage opportunity. Like if say Trump has a 50% chance of winning and you move it to 90%, then anyone can go like sell into that and extract free money, not free money, but extract money like plus EV from the person doing the manipulation. And it's the same thing with FUTARDS. So we actually had someone who wanted to test this hypothesis. His name is Ben Hawkins. He works with Solana Foundation, but here he was just acting as an independent person. He created a proposal to MetaDAO in the very early days, where the proposal was to buy the native token of MetaDAO for below the spot price. So it was a shitty deal for the DAO, a good deal for him. And he spent $250,000, which at the time was a third of the market cap of the whole token, bidding in the pass market to try to get it to pass, essentially like placing bets, like the value would be good, the proposal would be good, it would make number go up. But people capitalized on this. He would place these high bids, and then people would be like, oh, wait, I can sell my Meta to him. And then if the proposal passes, I'll be able to buy it back for a lower price. So I can essentially just like extract free money from him. And so yeah, he'd place these high bids, and then they get eaten down. And this process continued until eventually he gave up. And he has like a blog post about the process from his perspective.
Yeah, that's crazy, actually. I'm going to try and find that blog and read that later on. I think like it's interesting that like predictions markets, as well as like, you know, you guys starting to gain traction and go live on new protocols and stuff like that. It's a lot of it is gaining steam at like similar time. The parallels are really interesting, and especially like niche markets like that, where it's like just for experimentation purposes or like to kind of test the limits of this thing. That stuff, I find that stuff to be super interesting. Do you guys, either within like the MetaDAO forum or any of the other ones you have integrated, are there any other proposals you guys have had in the past that you think make for like particularly good stories? No, sounds like you got a grin on
yeah.
there. Sounds like you got one.
Yeah. So we had early on an offer, a proposal that was created by Pantera to put $50,000 into the DAO treasury, and that was fought pretty hard by the markets that saw it as EV negative to include that. So that was an interesting thing that, like, by all accounts, you would say this is a nascent startup company with no resources. So, you know, why wouldn't you accept something like this? And then most recently, there was a proposal to create a Pump.Fun clone, but governed by FUTARDS and have value driven back to the FUTARDS, which I think is an extremely interesting premise for a business. And rather than us making the decision, right, we create the proposal and let the markets trade. And it certainly was like a very contentious proposal. Prophet wrote about it on an article on Twitter. about it, where the interaction in the Discord, the communication, and then the activity on chain. Prophet, you can tell us about the total volume. I thought it was around 500,000.
Yeah, it was around 500K on the FUTARDS proposal. What was definitely interesting with that one was that there were about 1,300 trades with about 45 traders. So it was more than 30 trades per user with no bots. So these are people over the span of a 3-day proposal that are going on the actual site and clicking the trade button more than 30 times, which is obviously more engaging than like a vote where if you show up at all, you just show up and you press vote once. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Feudarchy and like the concept itself is supposed to increase participation and governance as a whole. Have you guys looked at the numbers between like the participating governance for your guys' token versus like the general holders? What does that ratio look like? I'm
I would say
assuming
actually the goal of FUTARDS is not to increase engagement by holders. Like if you hold $1,000 of a token, why should you be compelled to people ask you to vote, but it's like, why? Like, why should you be doing that? Like you have a job completely separate, likely. So yeah, it doesn't really make a ton of sense. The goal is for like those decisions to be made by people who actually have alpha, people who like understand them, and the decisions be good. So yeah, in terms of how many people participate, I mean, I don't think it's like much higher than it's probably higher, but it's not much higher. Typically, we see like between 20 and like 50 traders on a given governance trade. So yeah, which is probably not too dissimilar to like if we were voting DAO, maybe incrementally more, marginally more.
Yeah, just to push back on that concept a bit, you don't think that like Futarchy is meant to increase any like participation? You think it's just like a subproduct of the relationship between governance and financials that Futarchy creates? Like you think it's like a subproduct, not really like the main purpose?
Yeah, I mean, it's like yeah, the goal is to make good decisions of any decision making system. And it turns out with voting that if you have low participation, then whoever does participate gets to control the outcome. Right? Like this is what happens with a lot of DeFi DAOs. It's just like the team who holds the quorum amount, they're just like voting with whatever they want. They're voting in whatever they want. And that's problematic, but it's a sub problem for voting systems that doesn't really seem to exist with Futarchy, because even at limited scales, markets can be good aggregators of information. So like, yeah, the study that the 74% number comes from, as in like 74% of the time presidential prediction markets beat professional pollsters. It was actually, so those markets ran from 1980 to 2004. And they only had between 155 traders and 790 traders, and they were still beating professional pollsters. So it's not like that's obviously like a very small percentage of the people living in the United States. And yet it was still like a good means of aggregating information.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we had some previous episodes recently on the prediction markets themselves, and comparison or like an analogy I heard or explanation of these audiences or like participants or like the purpose of some of these prediction markets, because I just had some trouble wrapping my head around manifold markets and why people put so much time into being right on manifold with play money. And I mean, I sort of understand the concept a bit better, but what I also understand is that like the permissionlessness nature of asking these questions, the purpose of it is just to kind of get like wisdom of this subset of people, and each prediction market could have like a subset of people that are more sophisticated in specific things. Could have like a call sheet where they have a track record of being accurate on the like side of different economical predictions, like interest rate hikes or cuts. When it comes to some of the pushback prediction markets have gotten on um, like manipulation and accuracy, um, do you see one of some of the like pushback I saw was that like with the presidential election, you're paying however many millions to push a market in a specific direction. Obviously, the outcome of the poly market doesn't determine who's actually president, but it creates like a case or like a strong form of evidence for normal market election manipulation, and that case could be described as like a cost of entry, or like the the manipulators are paying the price for that kind of like reasoning and for that support for that like market to settle in their favor because they think it'll be beneficial to them. In a world where there was a proposal on futarchy for the entire presidential election, um, would there be a cost that makes sense, or do you think futarchy and this model would fall victim to some type of manipulation where a market participant could see manipulating this market as worth the cost, or how do you think that would play out?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't think that just because there's an incentive to manipulate doesn't mean manipulation will be successul. So there's like a huge incentive to manipulate the equity markets, right? Because there's trillions of derivatives notional traded. And if you have like options on an index, you want to manipulate that index upwards so that you can options will be in money, and you can make money. And yet, like, I mean, people do try, right? Occasionally we'll see like a flash crash in an equity index where someone is just like selling arbitrarily to try to drive the price down. And you can generally see like once the market figures out that it's a manipulation, it's not like some catastrophic event that's happened, like new information, then you see the prices revert, like go back to right where they were within like 10, 15 minutes generally. And
Don't you think?
yeah, I mean,
Don't you
go
think
ahead.
traditional equities have the benefit of like fear of regulation or like consequence that's limiting some of the manipulation? I mean, I
It
think
would
there's like
explain
yeah,
that would explain why manipulation is uncommon, but it wouldn't explain why it's corrected so quickly when it occurs.
yeah. I'm just trying to visualize like what like raw futarchy would look like at scale. Um,
Sure.
yeah,
So I
I
guess
think yeah,
if there's manipulation, like say poly market is completely manipulated right now, like actually the odds are 60% Kamala is going to win, then your incentive, like you can make a lot of money by just buying or like it's not guaranteed, but you make a lot of expected value by buying that and by correcting the price. And yeah, so like if we believe that markets are manipulated, then we should all be spinning up funds to trade against those manipulators, or just like executing strategies within the thousands of funds that exist today, right? Like there are literally tens of thousands of people that are employed at hedge funds and family offices where their sole goal is to like seek expected value and deliver super normal returns. And if they see an opportunity like this is like they can make money from it. It seems like something they'd want to pursue. So yeah, I think like it's not perfect, but there are pretty strong incentives to correct that manipulation.
yeah. And so, do you think like I still want to like just hear what your thoughts on the entire U.S. presidential election from like the actionable putting the person in the office being directly tied to who wins on MetaDAO on a singular market. What do you think that would look
Sure.
like?
Yeah, so for a country like for MetaDAO, every feature key has to select its objective function, like the thing it wants to go up. In the case of most DAOs, I think this is just the token price, right? Like you want the value of the governance token to go up. In a country, it's more complicated because there's not like a clear token. Like maybe you could just do like US just does whatever to make S&P 500 go up, but maybe you don't want to do that as well. So like one thing that you could do is create financial contracts that pay out relative to constituent satisfaction. So imagine if instead of voting every 4 years, we all filled out a form every year, which is like trying to encapsulate how satisfied we are with our life. So maybe we score like, from 0 to 10, how satisfied are you currently? How happy are you with the current state of things? And then you create financial contracts that pay out relative to this number. So like, if Americans are on average 6.6 satisfied, then these contracts pay out 66 cents. Or if they're like 9.5 satisfied out of 10, then they pay out 95 cents. And then, with individual say the election, then bettors would speculate on how each candidate would affect the value of these contracts. So like if markets trade that Americans would be 8.8 satisfied if Trump wins and 6.5 if Harris wins, then that would be like a signal from the markets that Trump would be better for Americans, and you can use that to just like to automatically let him win.
Yeah, interesting. I actually really like that example. I feel like I believe both of you guys when you say that's the ultimate goal, and considering this is actually built on Solana and not like cucked by Ethereum, there is I think a high likelihood that you see like that like markets on Futardsky in relation to governments is not too far off. Obviously maybe like a smaller one to start out with. What are like your guys' next steps? What does like the quote unquote roadmap look like for you guys for how you get there in your minds?
Sure. I think within the next year, it's just owning Solana DAOs, like getting every Solana DAO or all the major ones to use Futardsky. And then owning like broader crypto after that. But I'd say Solana DAOs is like the short-term plan. And then, we already have people outside of crypto that have reached out to like want to use decision markets to help make their decisions. So that would be interesting. I'd say the roadmap is just like trying to prove that the model works. Like Jito, I think they're going to use decision markets to decide whether or not grants happen. And that'll be a great case study. Or is now onboarding onto MetaDAO. They just did their first Futardsky proposal, and Hardhead Chad said after the proposal, he's like pretty Futardsky pilled now. Just like owning more and more of the governance stack there.
Yeah. I think too, right? Like we are the ultimate case study because Prophet and I are governed by markets. We came to the DAO with a proposal for how we wanted to get our tokens. We structured the proposal for long-term thinking with a 4-year lock and then tied to the market cap of the tokens so that we don't get anything if we don't build anything of value. And then, we're in it for the long haul. And, like our use of it is going to be critically important to showcase that the decisions that are made and the effectiveness that we've got here is, through truly leveraging it. So I think that's going to be something to pay attention to and be aware of for people.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm curious as to, obviously you guys are, focused on Solana. Prophet, you just mentioned that your goal is to get all of the Solana DAOs onboarded. But both of you had a background. Now, it sounds like you were a little bit more all over the place. Prophet, you were writing smart contracts on Ethereum. What brought you guys to Solana, and kind of where does your conviction come from at this point? Like, what makes you say that, like, all right, this is the place that we want to be doing this. Like, we're going to start here and own this pond and then move from there, basically just like why Solana in a nutshell. Prophet, would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, at the time when I was like deciding where to build and just like designing the original MetaDAO system, this was right after FTX had collapsed, and at the time Solana was very contrarian. And one thing you learn in markets, if you're a big market nerd like me, is that you have to be both contrarian and right in order to make outsized returns. Because even if you're right, but everyone else knows it, then you're just like you're just buying an entry that already reflects the truth. Like Apple may be a great company, but I don't know if there's a lot of juice to squeeze buying it at the current valuation. Not that it's bad either. It's just that you're not going to get extra. You're not going to get like huge returns. And yeah, at the time I dug into Solana and I came to the conclusion the tech made a lot of sense. It was actually decentralized. It wasn't like Binance Smart Chain V2, where like, yeah, you just have a few people running nodes. Like there was actual real tech there that made sense. And the ecosystem I thought was also really interesting. So that was kind of what gave me initial conviction. And then, yeah, I think there have been like a lot of reinforcing things as well. Like, I just think Solana people generally work fairly hard relative to Ethereum people, and are just more like practical, get shit done. I mean, yeah, you were at Breakpoint, so you saw like Solana team ship stuff. They don't just like make papers and ideas on whiteboards. Like I saw on Twitter there was this guy on Ethereum tweeting about Futards and how he had this like idea of how to implement it. And I was like, you should, you should do this. And he was like, yeah, I'm working on a white paper right now. Like, probably send it to you. And I was like, dude, just ship an MVP. Like, no one cares about your fucking white paper. So yeah. Whereas, like, I think in Solana, it's just natural to ship the MVP instead of the white paper. I don't even think most protocols have white papers on Solana. They just have like Gitbook.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I never.
Yeah, that might be
never
quote of the
considered
cycle. That might be the quote of
saying
the
the
cycle.
quiet part out loud for sure.
It's hilarious.
That's crazy. Now, do you share that same sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, coming from, the emergence of Ethereum and existing throughout all of it, first balked at Solana because, that's the chain that halts, right? That was my like general perspective on it. But when I came over and like used a perpstex or used an order book that's on chain, the user experience just reminded me of like my trading on centralized exchanges, right? Like I'm not sitting there clicking an approval, waiting for that to go through, and then like who knows what I just approved. And so I started to seriously take a look at it and look at the opportunities that existed there, and started to listen to Tolly talk about his vision for listen, hardware accelerates, we're going to tie the chain to hardware acceleration. And I was like, this is the promise of blockchain. I can't tell you throughout the years the number of people that have come up to me and said, here's my business plan, here's how many users I'm going to get. And you do napkin math and you're like, this would saturate 90% of Bitcoin for the next 3 months if you get this many users, right? Like that are using this application in the way that you've described it. And same thing with Ethereum, right? Like I'm going to build a perpstex on Ethereum, and you're like, how are you going to deal with state contention and all this other stuff? And nobody sat down and done the napkin math. And then you get with Solana, and it has its sharp edges, but it really is the promise of blockchain, of like what I was originally introduced to, and it re-inspired in me like some confidence that like this technology could kick off, this could go places. And I think that when I started to engage with the community and the stuff that you can build on it that is actually real and users can see and it's on chain, it's surreal coming from a place where like, no, we're just going to get you to sign authority, and then you're going to send this to a like a relayer, and then we've got an off-chain processor, but someday we're going to delegate this to other validators, and we'll get there. I just think that like if we keep circling around that, and this is the stuff that continues to be invested in, like we're just a worse centralized exchange. And I don't understand like why so many people are like gung ho for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's increasingly becoming like, I mean, Prophet, you were talking about being contrarian and right, but now it seems like Solana has become, it's getting to the point where it's popular and it's right almost. Like people are starting to realize these things, whereas, a year ago I tried to stick around as much as I could through like the whole FTX collapse and stuff. Not as much as I would have liked to. But I'm grateful I did. Obviously, I had to, drag Cito over kicking and screaming when, when L2s still were favored by most of CT, and eventually we got there, and now it's like a lot more balanced. And a lot of the stuff you guys are saying, it's like when you really think about it practically, of like, looking at some of these EVM projects and looking at just some of the hustlers on Solana, it's pretty incredible to see the difference.
Yeah.
Would you guys say?
Sorry,
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna butt in here real quick. Our thought process, I mean, you can kind of see it in like our guest selection more and more often. Like our criteria is like people building cool shit, and more often it's just on Solana. Yeah, I was definitely kicking and screaming and not clicking the right buttons and making the wrong trades. But yeah, no, that was a good speech, Nalik. I think that was awesome.
Yeah,
For
for sure. Would you guys say that? So, like, you're focused on Solana, obviously. Do you think that makes you exclusive to it? So, like, if tomorrow I were to go and launch a perp dex on an L2, crazy idea, I know, and bring it to MetaDAO, launch a token, and be like, hey, I want to govern this via FUTARDS. Do you guys think? Well, I guess it would all be decided by markets, but just intuitively, do you guys think that I would have a chance at passing, or like even technically, is it feasible currently?
Yeah, so there's actually a project that plans to migrate their token from Ethereum to Solana explicitly to use Futarchy. So that's like one path. In terms of whether or not MetaDAO goes to EVM, I mean, yeah, the market will decide ultimately. Like anyone could raise a proposal, and yeah, market will decide.
Dude, it would be hilarious if an L2 made the decision to decentralize the sequencer on MetaDAO on Solana.
Wait, which team is
Oh my
that
God.
that's migrating their token?
It's a secret, man.
Yeah, we'll let you know. It's either this quarter or early next quarter, but you'll know. And I think that there's a world where you have multi-chain stuff. You just have this experience where users don't care. Like you and I don't care whether Google's using Kafka or Docker or HTTP3. Like these are all protocols that just make sure that this video shows up here right now. Right, like who knows how it all works. And we've like popularized low level protocol comms and tried to get people to market it. And I think that's the silliest thing. I'm like, have you guys ever read an HTTP RFC, like the spec on what it takes to make the internet work? And it's like most people will never, but you all touch it. And I think that for Solana and for these chains, there's a reality that you've got bridge tokens, you've got virtualized tokens, that this stuff can happen. There's a whole wide world here that, if this is the demand, there's many different paths and avenues to get there. It's just a matter of like security, safety, what's going on behind the scenes. But it's not unreasonable to think that you could be participating on Solana for Futarchy, and then have the token exist somewhere else. So I just want to like leave with that there's the wide world for cross-chain comms exists. We have examples, bridges exist. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a participation perspective too, I liked what Prophet said earlier about like, if there is an edge to be had, an expected value, someone's going to find it, like it doesn't matter what chain you're on, what chain you're coming from. If you have these markets that create opportunities for I don't even know if you would call it arbitrage necessarily, but mispriced value,
Right.
someone's going to find a way to do it. Someone's going to find a way to get the funds together and make it happen. We are coming up on time here. We have a bit of a tight window, so I don't want to run too over. But before we wrap up, I would love to give you guys a second in case you have any closing remarks, anything that you think the audience should know that we might not have covered, calls to action, that kind of stuff. That would be great to hear from both of you. Nalek, starting off with you.
Cool. We're hiring. So I'd love to get people that are engaged with this subject matter. We're really excited about it. This is our everything, day in and day out. So if this sounds like something that's right up your alley, we're really interested to hear from you. You can find it on the Solana Jobs Board. You can find it on Paradigm's website. We are happy to hear from anybody. So I'd love to get some more resumes in and get some people from within crypto that understand markets, that want to trade the future of governance. So excited to hear from people. If you're out there, I'm looking for you.
Yeah. And then what I would say is trade the markets. Like, it takes 10 minutes. I mean, right now you have the opportunity to be like essentially one of the first 1,000 Athenians, like one of the first people to like ever participate in this new system. And you can also make money, right? Like, this is not too dissimilar to the rest of crypto, the casino, right? Like, except for this is using the casino to make decisions. So yeah, I would say participate in the casino, and also potentially participate in like the future of governance and civilization.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm gonna have to give that a try for sure. Me and Cito have had a poly market itch as of recently, so I think this is definitely gonna fit nicely into that. And then like 10 years
Dude,
from
we
now,
should throw the whole fucking podcast on the future market. Just like guest selection, everything.
have them choose guests and stuff. Be crazy, dude.
Oh,
It's
God.
gonna be insane. 10 years from now, when you guys are fixing the electoral college, I can say I was one of the first people betting on these markets. People are gonna be like, "What did you do?" It's like, "Oh, I helped fix this guy's sleep score." It's like, I just love some of the proposals that go up, and the fact that like you can, there's opportunity, there's ways to like make money and find value is fascinating for sure. I'm excited for this, guys. I think this is going to be a lot of fun to watch you grow and integrate new stuff and put out new markets, see these dynamics play out. Definitely going to be keeping a close eye. That was episode 92. We're going to call that a wrap here. Thanks again for joining us, Nalek and Profit, and everybody else. We will see you guys next week.